Welcome. As evening falls, we journey into the quiet world of medieval tax systems. Breathe slowly. Let your mind drift gently with each passing century. The flickering candlelight casts long shadows across the stone walls of a dimly lit castle chamber. A quill scratches softly against parchment, the sound echoing in the stillness. This is where our tale begins, in the heart of medieval Europe, where the intricate dance of power, wealth, and obligation unfolds. Imagine yourself as a humble peasant, tilling the soil beneath a blazing sun. The weight of your feudal lord's expectations hangs heavy upon your shoulders. With each turn of the soil, you re-acutely aware that a portion of your harvest will soon be claimed in the name of taxes. But what exactly were these medieval taxes, and how did they shape the very fabric of society? As we delve deeper into this world, let the gentle rustling of autumn leaves outside your window transport you to a time long past. Picture the bustling marketplaces, the towering cathedrals, and the sprawling manors that dotted the landscape. Each of these played a crucial role in the complex web of medieval taxation. In those days, taxes weren't just about money. They were a tangible representation of the social hierarchy, a constant reminder of one's place in the grand scheme of things. From the lowest serf to the mightiest king, everyone had a part to play in this intricate system. Close your eyes for a moment and listen. Can you hear the clink of coins changing hands? The murmur of merchants haggling over prices? These everyday transactions were the lifeblood of medieval economies, and taxes flowed through them like rivers through the land. But taxation in the Middle Ages was far from uniform. Each region, each lordship, each city had its own unique approach. Some relied heavily on land taxes, while others focused on trade tariffs. Some collected taxes in coin, while others accepted goods or labor as payment. Imagine walking through a medieval town, the cobblestones rough beneath your feet. You pass by a toll booth at the city gates, where travelers pay for the privilege of entry. Further along, you see a tax collector making his rounds, carefully noting down the possessions of each household. As we explore this fascinating world, we'll uncover the stories of those who shaped and were shaped by these tax systems. From the clever merchants who found ways to circumvent the rules, to the diligent scribes who meticulously recorded every transaction, each played a vital role in the grand tapestry of medieval life. We'll journey to the great fairs of Champagne, where merchants from across Europe gathered to trade, and where taxes played a crucial role in funding these massive events. We'll visit the bustling ports of Venice, where customs duties helped build one of the most powerful maritime empires in history. But it wasn't all about commerce and coin. Religion, too, played a significant role in medieval taxation. The church, with its vast landholdings and spiritual authority, was both a collector and beneficiary of taxes. Tithes, those mandatory contributions of 1/10 of one's income or produce, helped fund the construction of magnificent cathedrals and support the clergy. As we delve deeper into our exploration, we'll uncover the origins of some tax practices that persist to this day. The concept of progressive taxation, where the wealthy pay a higher percentage than the poor, has its roots in medieval times. Even the idea of tax exemptions for certain groups or activities can be traced back to this era. But taxation in the Middle Ages wasn't just about collection, it was also about resistance. Peasant revolts, often sparked by oppressive taxation, dot the pages of history. The Peasants' Revolt of 1381 in England, fueled in part by frustration over poll taxes, serves as a stark reminder of the power dynamics at play. As we continue our journey, let the gentle glow of your screen mimic the warm light of a medieval hearth. Feel the weight of history settling around you like a comfortable blanket. Each tax, each coin, each transaction we explore is a thread in the rich tapestry of medieval life. We'll examine the role of the exchequer, the financial heart of medieval governments. Picture rows of clerks, hunched over their abacus-like counting boards, meticulously tracking the kingdom's finances. Their work laid the foundation for modern accounting practices. But it wasn't all about numbers and ledgers. The human element of taxation was ever present. Imagine the anxiety of a farmer as tax day approached, wondering if his harvest would be enough to satisfy both the tax collector and his family's needs. Or the pride of a guildmaster, paying his dues as a symbol of his status and success. As we near the end of our opening chapter, take a moment to reflect on the legacy of these medieval tax systems. Their influence can still be felt today in the structures of our modern economies and the principles that guide our tax policies. The sun is setting on our medieval world, casting long shadows across the land. But as darkness falls, remember that the echoes of this era continue to resonate through time. The taxes of the Middle Ages were more than just financial transactions. They were the lifeblood of societies, the fuel for wars and cathedrals, the cause of revolts and reforms. As we prepare to delve deeper into the specifics of medieval taxation in the chapters to come, let the weight of history settle comfortably around you. Each tax, each coin, each transaction we've explored is a thread in the rich tapestry of medieval life, a tapestry that continues to influence our world today. So, as the candle of our exploration flickers, casting dancing shadows on the walls of your imagination, take a deep breath. Let the rhythms of medieval life wash over you. For in understanding the past, we gain invaluable insights into our present and future. The journey into the world of medieval tax systems has only just begun. As we move forward, keep your senses alert, your mind open, and your curiosity piqued. For in the pages of history, in the coins and ledgers of the past, lie lessons that continue to shape our world today. And so, with the echoes of medieval marketplaces and the whispers of long-forgotten tax collectors still lingering in the air, we conclude our opening chapter. But fear not, for our exploration of this fascinating world is far from over. As we pause to catch our breath, remember that the story of medieval taxation is in many ways the story of humanity itself, a tale of power, struggle, innovation, and the eternal quest for fairness in an often unfair world. In the early Middle Ages, as the dust settled from the fall of great empires, a new order began to take shape across Europe. Lords and kings, eager to assert their authority, started reclaiming lands and establishing their dominion. It was during this time that taxation, far from being the burden we often perceive it as today, emerged as a subtle reflection of societal obligations and relationships. The concept of medieval taxation was not born overnight, but rather evolved gradually from the remnants of Roman fiscal systems and the needs of emerging feudal societies. As we delve into this fascinating chapter of history, we'll explore how these early tax systems laid the groundwork for the complex financial structures we know today. Picture, if you will, a world where coins were scarce and most transactions were conducted through barter or services. In this context, taxation took on forms that might seem alien to our modern sensibilities. Knights, for instance, fulfilled their tax obligations not with gold or silver, but with their swords and loyalty. They pledged to serve their lords in times of war, providing military might in exchange for land and protection. Peasants, on the other hand, paid their dues through a system known as tithes. This wasn't simply a matter of handing over a portion of their harvest. A tithe was deeply intertwined with religious beliefs and social structures. 1/10 of their produce would be given to the church, a practice that not only supported the clergy, but also helped maintain the spiritual and social fabric of medieval communities. But taxation in the Middle Ages was far more nuanced than these two examples might suggest. As kingdoms grew and became more complex, so too did their financial needs. Kings and lords began to implement a variety of taxes, each designed to meet specific requirements or exploit particular resources. One such tax was the tallage, a tax levied on the tenants of royal domain lands. This tax was often arbitrary in nature, with the amount determined by the king's immediate needs rather than any fixed rate. It was a flexible tool, allowing monarchs to raise funds quickly when necessary, but it also led to unpredictability and, at times, resentment among those subject to it. Another interesting form of medieval taxation was the scutage, also known as the shield tax. This was a payment made by knights in lieu of military service. As warfare became more complex and prolonged campaigns more common, many knights preferred to pay this tax rather than serve in person. This shift had profound implications for the nature of medieval armies and the relationship between lords and their vassals. In the towns and cities that began to flourish in the later Middle Ages, we see the emergence of more recognizable forms of taxation. Merchants and craftsmen often paid taxes based on their profits or the value of their goods. These urban taxes helped fund the growth of cities and the development of trade networks that would eventually span continents. It is important to note that the implementation and collection of taxes in medieval times was far from uniform. Different regions, influenced by local customs and the whims of their rulers, developed unique systems. In some areas, tax collectors were appointed officials, while in others, the right to collect taxes was sold to the highest bidder, leading to a system ripe for abuse and corruption. The Church, as one of the most powerful institutions of the Middle Ages, played a significant role in the development and administration of taxes. Beyond the tithes collected from the faithful, the Church also imposed its own taxes on its vast land holdings and engaged in complex financial arrangements with secular rulers. As we examine these early tax systems, it becomes clear that they were more than just a means of raising revenue. They were a reflection of the social order, a way of reinforcing bonds between rulers and subjects, and a tool for shaping the very structure of medieval society. Consider, for instance, the hearth tax, a levy based on the number of fireplaces in a household. This tax not only provided a relatively stable source of income for the crown, but also served as a crude form of census, allowing rulers to estimate population sizes and wealth distribution within their realms. The development of taxation in the Middle Ages was not without its challenges and conflicts. The Magna Carta, signed in 1215, was in part a response to excessive taxation by the English crown. This seminal document established the principle that the king's power to tax should be limited and subject to the consent of his barons, laying the groundwork for future concepts of representative government and fiscal accountability. As we near the end of our exploration of medieval tax systems, it's worth reflecting on the legacy of these early fiscal policies. Many of the principles and practices established during this period would go on to shape the development of modern taxation and government finance. The idea of progressive taxation, where the wealthy pay a higher proportion of their income, has its roots in medieval concepts of social obligation. The use of tax exemptions as a tool for encouraging certain behaviors or supporting particular groups can be traced back to privileges granted to religious orders or towns in the Middle Ages. Even the basic notion that a government has the right to collect taxes from its citizens, a concept we often take for granted today, was solidified during this period. A gradual shift from taxes paid in service or goods to monetary payments laid the foundation for the complex financial systems that would emerge in later centuries. As we conclude our journey through the origins of medieval taxation, we're left with a deeper appreciation for the complexities of this early fiscal system. Far from being a simple matter of oppressive lords extracting wealth from helpless peasants, medieval taxation was a nuanced reflection of the social, economic, and political realities of the time. In many ways, the taxes of the Middle Ages tell us as much about the values and structure of medieval society as any chronicle or artifact. They speak to us of a world where obligations were personal, where the lines between secular and religious authority were blurred, and where the seeds of modern governance were just beginning to sprout. As we look to our own time, with its heated debates over tax policy and government spending, perhaps we can draw some wisdom from this distant era. The story of medieval taxation reminds us that fiscal systems are not just about numbers and rates, but about the fundamental relationships that bind a society together. In the heart of medieval Europe, the manor stood as a microcosm of feudal society. Here, the rhythms of life unfolded with predictable regularity, each day a testament to the intricate web of obligations that bound lord and serf alike. As dawn broke over the misty fields, peasants emerged from their humble dwellings, tools in hand, ready to fulfill their age-old duties. The lord's domain, a patchwork of fertile land, demanded constant attention. Serfs, bound to the soil by birth and custom, toiled under the watchful eye of the reeve. They plowed the earth, their wooden implements etching furrows into the rich loam. The steady cadence of their labor echoed across the fields, a song of sweat and duty that had endured for generations. Beyond the fields, the mill wheel turned ceaselessly, grinding grain into flour. The miller, a figure of both respect and suspicion, collected his share of the harvest, a tax paid in kind for his essential service. In the village center, the blacksmith's hammer rang out, shaping tools and mending plowshares, his skills indispensable to the manor's prosperity. As the seasons turned, so too did the cycle of feudal dues. At Michaelmas, serfs presented their lord with the fruits of their labor: sacks of grain, fatted livestock, and carefully counted coins. These offerings, though burdensome, were woven into the very fabric of medieval life, as natural and inevitable as the changing of the leaves. The manor court, held beneath the spreading branches of an ancient oak, saw justice dispensed and disputes settled. Here, the intricate dance of feudal obligations played out in miniature, with fines levied and customs upheld. Each ruling, each penalty, reinforced the bonds that held society together, a reminder of the price of order in a world often teetering on the edge of chaos. In the fields, women bent double over rows of vegetables, their labor no less vital than that of their male counterparts. Children, too young yet for the heaviest work, chased away birds and gathered kindling, their small hands contributing to the collective effort. Every member of the community, from the youngest to the oldest, played a role in the complex system of mutual dependence that defined manor life. As twilight approached, the Lord Steward made his rounds, tallying the day's work and planning for tomorrow's tasks. In the great hall, the Lord and his family dined on the bounty of their lands, their table a reflection of the manor's prosperity. Below stairs, servants hurried about their duties, their own lives inextricably linked to the fortunes of their masters. The church bell tolled, calling the faithful to vespers. Serfs and nobles alike bowed their heads in prayer, united for a moment in their devotion. The rhythmic chanting of monks drifted from the nearby monastery, a reminder of the spiritual dues owed not just to earthly lords, but to the divine. Night fell, and with it came a brief respite from labor. In thatched cottages, families gathered around flickering hearths, sharing meager meals and tailies passed down through generations. The darkness outside was kept at bay by the warmth of community, a balm against the hardships of their lives. Yet even in these quiet moments, the specter of feudal obligations loomed. Tomorrow would bring new tasks, new demands from the Lord's bailiff. The cycle of planting and harvest, of birth and death, of payment and debt, would continue unabated as it had for centuries. In the manor's dovecote, pigeons cooed softly, their presence a symbol of the Lord's status and a source of both food and fertilizer. The carefully tended herb garden, overseen by the lady of the manor, provided remedies for ailments and flavors for the kitchen. Every aspect of manor life was carefully calculated, a balance of give and take that sustained the feudal system. With the first light of dawn, the manor would stir once more. Serfs would emerge from their homes, ready to offer their labor in exchange for protection and the right to work the land. The Lord's huntsman would lead his hounds into the forest, seeking game for the high table. In the village, the smell of fresh bread would waft from the communal oven, where villagers paid in loaves for the privilege of baking. The tax system of medieval Europe was not merely a matter of coin and commodity. It was a complex web of services, obligations, and customs that touched every aspect of daily life. From the three-field system that rotated crops to ensure fertility, to the labor services owed during harvest time, each element was carefully calibrated to maintain the delicate balance of power and survival. In times of war, serfs might be called upon to serve as foot soldiers, their bodies becoming yet another form of tax paid to their lord. In times of peace, they might find themselves repairing roads or bridges, their sweat and toil and investment in the infrastructure that bound communities together. The manor's woodlands, carefully managed by the forester, provided timber for building and fuel for fires. Serfs gathered fallen branches by right of Estover, but woe betide the peasant caught felling a living tree without permission. Such transgressions were met with swift justice in the manor court, for the preservation of resources was vital to the community's survival. As the seasons turned, so too did the cycle of religious festivals and feast days. These moments of respite from labor were themselves a form of spiritual currency, a tax paid in devotion and celebration. The Lord might distribute alms or host a feast, reinforcing the bonds of loyalty and obligation that held the manor together. In the fields, the heavy wooden plow turned the earth, guided by teams of oxen and the strong arms of peasant farmers. This tool, more than any other, symbolized the agricultural revolution that had made the feudal system possible. It was a testament to human ingenuity and the power of cooperation, for no single family could afford or manage such an implement alone. As night fell once more, the manor settled into uneasy slumber. Guards patrolled the palisades, their vigilance a reminder of the dangers that lurked beyond the safety of these familiar bounds. In the great hall, the Lord pored over accounts by candlelight, balancing the needs of his people against the demands of his own overlords. And so the cycle continued, day after day, year after year. The manor, with its intricate system of dues and obligations, stood as a bulwark against chaos and hunger. It was a world of harsh realities and simple pleasures, where every action, no matter how small, contributed to the greater whole. In this feudal tapestry, each thread, be it the labor of a serf or the protection of a lord, was essential, weaving together a society that would endure for centuries to come. As the sun rose over the medieval town, a gentle bustle began to stir. Beyond the rural fields and pastures, a soft hum of commerce arose. Market dues allowed waymasters to confirm measures. Custom duties welcomed traders with quiet checks at town gates. The air was thick with anticipation as merchants and townsfolk alike prepared for the day's transactions. In the heart of the town square, the market master's voice rang out, signaling the start of trade. Stalls lined the cobblestone streets, their wares neatly arranged and awaiting inspection. Waymasters, clad in official robes, moved methodically from booth to booth, their scales and measures at the ready. With practiced eyes, they assessed the goods, ensuring fair trade and proper taxation. The clinking of coins mingled with the murmur of haggling voices. A merchant from distant lands presented his exotic spices to the customs officer at the town gate. The officer, quill in hand, carefully recorded the nature and quantity of the goods. A small pouch of silver changed hands, the price of entry into the bustling market economy. As the day wore on, the rhythm of commerce ebbed and flowed. Farmers brought their harvests, artisans displayed their crafts, and traders from far-flung regions offered luxuries from beyond the horizon. Each transaction, no matter how small, contributed to the intricate web of medieval taxation. In the guild hall, scribes meticulously recorded the day's earnings. Ledgers filled with neat rows of figures told the story of the town's economic health. The collection of market fees and custom duties was not merely about filling coffers. It was the lifeblood of urban development and the key to a thriving community. Outside the town walls, the countryside remained a patchwork of feudal obligations. But here, within the market square, a new order was taking shape. The payment of dues and duties marked a shift from the old ways of barter and service to a more complex system of monetary exchange. As twilight approached, the market began to wind down. Merchants packed away their unsold goods, while satisfied customers returned home with their purchases. The waymasters and customs officers completed their final rounds, ensuring that all accounts were settled and all duties paid. In the quiet of the evening, the town's coffers grew heavier with the day's collections. These funds would soon be put to use, maintaining roads, fortifying walls, and supporting the myriad services that kept the town functioning. The system of market fees and custom duties, though sometimes burdensome, was the foundation upon which medieval urban life was built. The following dawn would bring another day of trade, another cycle of commerce and taxation. But for now, the town settled into a peaceful slumber. The day's transactions complete, the ledgers balanced, and the future secured through the careful collection of dues. As weeks turned to months, and months to years, the town's prosperity grew. The consistent application of market fees ensured the trade remained fair and regulated. Custom duties, while sometimes a source of grumbling among merchants, provided the means to improve infrastructure and defend against external threats. In the town hall, councilors debated the allocation of these funds. Should they invest in new bridges to facilitate trade? Or perhaps bolster the town's defenses against the uncertainties of a turbulent world? Each decision was weighed carefully, with the knowledge that the town's future hung in the balance. The system was not without its challenges. Some traders sought to circumvent the duties, smuggling goods under cover of darkness. Others attempted to bribe officials for more favorable rates. But for the most part, the citizens recognized the value of their contributions. They saw it in the well-maintained streets, the sturdy town walls, and the vibrant market that drew visitors from far and wide. As the medieval period progressed, the sophistication of these tax systems grew. New categories of goods were defined, different rates applied to local and foreign merchants, and exemptions granted to stimulate certain types of trade. The once simple collection of market dues evolved into a complex tapestry of economic policy. In times of crisis, be it famine, war, or plague, the stability provided by this system proved invaluable. The town could draw upon its reserves, supporting its people through hardship and emerging stronger on the other side. The foresight of those who had established and maintained these practices was a testament to the wisdom of medieval governance. Yet, for all its complexity, the heart of the system remained simple. It was about fairness, about contribution to the common good, about building a society that could withstand the tests of time. Each coin collected, each measure of grain assessed, each bale of cloth recorded, all were threads in the fabric of medieval urban life. As the years passed, the town grew and prospered. New markets were established, specializing in different goods. The original market square, once the sole center of commerce, became but one of many hubs of economic activity. Yet it retained its importance, a symbol of the town's origins and the enduring power of well-regulated trade. The legacy of these medieval tax systems would echo through the centuries. Future generations would build upon these foundations, creating ever more sophisticated methods of funding public works and services. But at its core, the principle remained unchanged, a community pooling its resources for the greater good. As night fell once more on the medieval town, the market square lay quiet. The stalls were empty, the scales and measures tucked away. But in homes and workshops throughout the town, people rested easy, knowing that their contributions had secured another day of peace and prosperity. And in the morning, they would rise again, ready to participate in the age-old dance of commerce and duty that had shaped their world for generations. In the shadowed halls of medieval Europe, a system of taxation emerged, as intricate and unyielding as the stone arches of its great cathedrals. The church, that omnipresent force in the lives of all, from the lowly serf to the mightiest king, reached into every corner of society with its most pervasive levy, the tithe. The tithe, meaning tenth, was not merely a suggestion but a divine mandate. 1/10 of all produce, be it from field or fold, was to be rendered unto God's earthly representatives. This was no simple matter of coin changing hands, but a complex web of obligations that bound together the spiritual and temporal realms. As the sun rose over the patchwork of fields and forests, peasants would gather their harvests, setting aside the church's portion with a mixture of reverence and resignation. Sheaves of wheat, barrels of ale, wheels of cheese, all were subject to this celestial taxation. The local priest, often as poor as his flock, would oversee the collection, his weathered hands sorting through the offerings that would sustain the parish through the lean months ahead. In the towns and cities, craftsmen and merchants faced a different calculus. Their tithes might come in the form of finished goods or hard-earned silver pennies. The wealthy burgher, his purse heavy with the profits of trade, might find himself contributing to the gilding of an altar or the commissioning of a new stained glass window. For in this age of faith, to give to the church was to invest in one's own salvation. Yet the tithe was more than a mere economic transaction. It was the lifeblood of the community, flowing through the veins of society and nourishing the body of Christendom. The church, in turn, used these resources to weave the fabric of medieval life. Monasteries became centers of learning and innovation, their libraries preserving the wisdom of antiquity. Hospitals tended to the sick and infirm, offering what rudimentary care the age could provide. And in every village and town, the parish church stood as a beacon of hope and continuity. The rhythm of the liturgical year, marked by feast days and fasts, was sustained by these offerings. From the humble Advent candles to the elaborate Easter processions, each celebration required its share of wax, wine, and incense. The tithe ensured that even the poorest community could partake in the splendor of the faith, if only for a moment. But the system was not without its flaws and inequities. The great lords of the land often found ways to lessen their burden, negotiating special arrangements with bishops or abbots. Some monasteries grew fat on the tithes of vast estates, while rural priests struggled to maintain crumbling chapels. And always, there were those who sought to evade their obligations, risking not only earthly punishment, but the very fate of their immortal souls. As the centuries wore on, the tithe became a source of tension and conflict. Peasants grumbled at the sight of well-fed monks, while reformers questioned the church's right to such worldly wealth. In times of hardship, when crops failed and livestock perished, the unyielding demand for the tithe could push communities to the brink of rebellion. Yet for all its imperfections, the tithe remained a cornerstone of medieval society. It bound together rich and poor, clergy and laity, in a shared enterprise of faith and community. The parish priest, supported by these offerings, became not just a spiritual guide, but a pillar of village life, counselor, teacher, and mediator in disputes both petty and profound. In the great cathedrals, where bishops held court and pilgrims sought miracles, the fruits of the tithe were on full display. Gilded reliquaries, jewel-encrusted chalices, and intricately carved choir stalls all bore silent witness to the collective sacrifice of countless faithful. Here, in these soaring spaces, the earthly and the divine seemed to meet, and the tithe found its ultimate justification. As night fell across the land, and the last echoes of Vespers faded from the air, the tithe continued its silent work. In dimly lit scriptoria, monks labored over illuminated manuscripts, their inks and pigments paid for by the offerings of the faithful. In remote hermitages, ascetics pursued their solitary devotions, sustained by the generosity of distant benefactors. And in countless humble parish churches, candles flickered before shrouded altars, their light a testament to the enduring power of this ancient covenant between God and his people. The tithe, then, was more than a tax. It was a thread that ran through the very warp and weft of medieval life, binding together the sacred and the profane, the individual and the community. In its collection and distribution, in its triumphs and its abuses, it reflected the complexities and contradictions of an age that still casts its long shadow over our own. As we look back across the centuries, we might marvel at the faith that could move men to give so freely, or shake our heads at a system that often seemed to take from those who had the least. But we cannot deny the profound impact of the tithe on the world that was to come. For in its principles of shared responsibility and communal support, we can perhaps discern the first glimmerings of the social contracts that would shape the modern world. And so, as the medieval night deepens and the last coins are counted, the last measures of grain stored away, we are left to ponder the legacy of this most pervasive of taxes. In the silence of the chapel, in the whispered prayers of the faithful, in the very stones of the churches that still stand today, the echo of the tithe lives on. A reminder of an age when faith was the currency of the realm and salvation, the ultimate return on investment. In the shadowy corridors of medieval power, a tapestry of taxation unfurled, woven with threads both visible and unseen. The common folk, toiling beneath the weight of their daily burdens, often found themselves ensnared in a web of financial obligations that stretched far beyond the realm of conventional levies. As the sun rose over the misty fields, peasants and merchants alike would set about their day, unaware of the myriad ways in which their purses might be lightened before nightfall. For in these times, the reach of authority extended into every nook and cranny of daily life, extracting its due through means both overt and covert. Consider, if you will, a humble farmer trudging along a well-worn path to the local market. His cart, laden with the fruits of his labor, creaks and groans as it approaches a narrow bridge spanning a swift-flowing river. Here he encounters the first of many hidden taxes, a toll for safe passage. A gruff collector, perched like a gargoyle at the bridge's edge, extends a gnarled hand, demanding payment for the privilege of crossing. But this was merely the beginning. As our farmer continues his journey, he passes the town square where a crowd has gathered. At its center stands a man, head bowed in shame, as a stern-faced official reads out his sentence. The crime? Failure to attend the local court when summoned. The punishment? A hefty fine, to be paid forthwith, lest he find himself languishing in the dank confines of the town jail. These fines, you see, were not mere punishments, but a cunning method of filling the coffers of those in power. They whispered of authority and consent, reminding all who witnessed such spectacles that obedience was not merely expected, but demanded, and that failure to comply came at a price. As darkness falls and taverns fill with weary travelers, hushed conversations turn to rumors of yet more insidious forms of taxation. Tales are shared of secret levies, imposed without warning or explanation, their purpose shrouded in mystery. Some speak of contributions demanded for the defense of the realm, while others mutter darkly of tributes exacted to satisfy the whims of capricious nobles. In the flickering candlelight, faces etched with concern huddle closer, voices lowered to barely more than a whisper. For in these uncertain times, one never knew when the long arm of authority might reach out to pluck yet another coin from one's purse. Dawn breaks, and with it comes a new day filled with fresh opportunities for the powers that be to extract their due. In the bustling marketplace, sharp-eyed officials prowl between stalls, their keen gazes searching for any sign of impropriety. A merchant's scales found to be even slightly askew might result in a fine so severe as to wipe out a season's profits in an instant. Meanwhile, in the fields beyond the town walls, a different sort of levy takes shape. As the harvest approaches, landowners and tenants alike cast anxious glances towards the horizon, knowing that soon the tax collectors will arrive to claim their share of the crop. This tax, though expected, carries with it a weight of uncertainty. For poor yields or spoilage could mean the difference between survival and ruin. Yet even as the common folk struggle under the burden of these myriad exactions, whispers of discontent begin to circulate. In taverns and marketplaces, in fields and workshops, people begin to question the fairness of a system that seems designed to keep them perpetually indebted to those in power. Some dare to dream of a world where taxes are levied with transparency and fairness, where the burden is shared equally among all members of society. But such thoughts are dangerous, and those who voice them too loudly may find themselves facing yet another hidden tax, the price of dissent. As the years roll by, the tapestry of medieval taxation grows ever more complex, its patterns shifting and evolving with each passing generation. New levies are introduced, old ones fall into disuse, but always the underlying principle remains the same. Those with power will find ways to extract wealth from those without. In the quiet corners of villages and towns, elders pass down tales of bygone days when taxes were simpler and life more predictable. But even as they speak, their listeners know that such times, if they ever truly existed, are long past. For in this world of hidden taxes and secret levies, one must always be on guard, ever watchful for the next demand that might come knocking at one's door. And so, as night falls once more upon the medieval landscape, the people retire to their homes, their pockets a little lighter, their spirits a little more burdened. They know that tomorrow will bring new challenges, new demands, and perhaps even new forms of taxation they have yet to imagine. For in this intricate dance of power and wealth, of authority and consent, the music never truly stops. It merely changes tempo, its rhythm dictated by those who hold the purse strings of the realm. And as long as there are those who seek to rule, there will always be those who must pay the price in coin, in kind, and in the quiet acquiescence to a system that forever whispers of hidden costs and secret dues. As the candles gutter and the last embers fade in the hearth, one final thought lingers in the minds of those about to surrender to sleep. In this world of shadows and whispers, of fines and tolls and secret levies, what new surprises might the dawn bring? What fresh demands might be made upon their already strained resources? Only time will tell, and as the first light of morning creeps across the land, the cycle begins anew. Another day, another hidden tax, another reminder of the delicate balance between those who rule and those who are ruled. And so it goes. In this medieval world where every coin tells a story of power, obligation, and the never-ending quest for control. In the flickering light of a solitary candle, a figure moves through the shadows of a medieval village. His steps are measured, his purpose clear. This is no ordinary traveler, but a tax collector, the embodiment of royal authority in a world of feudal obligations. As night falls, he approaches a humble cottage, ledger tucked securely under his arm. The weight of responsibility rests heavily upon his shoulders, for he must balance the needs of the crown with the meager resources of the common folk. With a gentle knock, he announces his presence, knowing that his arrival is both expected and dreaded. The door creaks open, revealing a weary farmer's face. The tax collector nods respectively, his voice low and reassuring as he explains his purpose. There is no malice in his tone, only the quiet determination of a man fulfilling his duty. He understands the hardship his visit may bring, yet he cannot shirk his appointed task. Inside the modest dwelling, the tax collector carefully unfurls his parchment. By the dim light of the hearth, he begins to calculate what is owed. His quill scratches softly against the page, each mark a testament to the complex web of obligations that binds lord and peasant alike. He works with precision, for errors in his ledger could mean ruin for those he assesses or punishment from his superiors. As he works, the farmer's wife offers him a simple meal, a gesture of hospitality even in trying times. The tax collector accepts graciously, knowing that such kindness is rare in his line of work. He listens patiently as the farmer explains the challenges of the past year: poor harvests, sickness among the livestock, the endless toil required to coax life from the unyielding earth. The tax collector nods in understanding, for he too knows the precariousness of life in these times. He has seen firsthand how a single misfortune can topple the delicate balance between survival and destitution. Yet he must also uphold the law, ensuring that each subject contributes their fair share to the realm's coffers. With careful consideration, he reviews the farmer's circumstances. The ledger before him is more than a mere record of numbers. It is a chronicle of human lives, each entry a story of struggle and perseverance. The tax collector wields his authority with restraint, seeking a middle ground between the crown's demands and the realities faced by those he assesses. As dawn breaks, the tax collector continues his rounds, moving from manor to village, from prosperous merchant to humble serf. Each encounter is a delicate negotiation, a test of his judgment and compassion. He knows that his decisions can shape the fate of entire communities, and he bears this burden with sullen dignity. In the great halls of nobility, he stands firm before lords and ladies, immune to their attempts at bribery or intimidation. Here, his ledger becomes a shield, protecting the interests of the common folk against the excesses of the powerful. With quiet authority, he reminds even the mightiest that none are above the law or their duty to the realm. Yet the tax collector is not without mercy. When he encounters true hardship, a widow struggling to feed her children, a craftsman crippled by injury, he exercises the discretion granted to him by his office. A reduction here, a deferment there, small acts of kindness that can mean the difference between hope and despair for those on the margins of medieval society. As the seasons turn, the tax collector's journey continues. He traverses muddy roads and treacherous mountain passes, braving bandits and harsh weather to fulfill his appointed rounds. His ledger grows heavy with the weight of countless transactions, each page a testament to the complex tapestry of medieval life. In bustling market towns, he navigates the maze of guild regulations and merchant rivalries. His keen eye spots attempts at deception, hidden profits concealed beneath layers of creative accounting. With patience and persistence, he unravels these financial knots, ensuring that all contribute their fair share to the kingdom's prosperity. At day's end, the tax collector finds refuge in humble inns and monasteries. Here, he meticulously reviews his records by candlelight, double-checking his calculations and noting any discrepancies. His work is never truly done, for the cycle of collection and assessment is eternal, mirroring the rhythms of agricultural life that govern the medieval world. As years pass, the tax collector becomes a familiar figure in the lands he oversees. Children who once hid from his approach now greet him by name, and even the most reluctant taxpayers grudgingly acknowledge his fairness. He has become more than a mere functionary. He is a living embodiment of the social contract that binds ruler and subject. Yet the tax collector is not immune to the winds of change that sweep through the medieval world. New methods of taxation emerge, reflecting the growing complexity of commerce and governance. He adapts, learning to navigate the intricacies of customs duties and poll taxes, always striving to apply these new systems with wisdom and restraint. In times of war or famine, the tax collector's role becomes even more crucial. He must balance the increased demands of the crown against the diminished resources of a suffering populace. It is a delicate tightrope walk, requiring all of his skill and empathy to prevent widespread unrest or economic collapse. As he grows older, the tax collector begins to train his successors. He imparts not just the technical skills of accounting and assessment, but the deeper wisdom gained from years of human interaction. He teaches them to see beyond the numbers, to understand the stories and struggles behind each entry in the ledger. In his final years, the tax collector looks back on a life spent in service to both crown and commoner. His ledgers, carefully preserved, stand as a testament to decades of diligent stewardship. Though his name may not be recorded in the grand chronicles of kings and battles, he knows that his work has touched countless lives, shaping the very fabric of medieval society. As twilight falls on his career, the tax collector takes one last journey through the lands he has served for so long. He sees thriving communities where once there was hardship, prosperous markets built on the foundation of fair taxation. And in the faces of those he meets, from the humblest peasant to the wealthiest merchant, he sees recognition of a life well lived, a duty fulfilled with honor and compassion. With a final entry in his ledger, the tax collector closes the book on an era. Yet his legacy lives on in the systems he helped refine, in the principles of fairness and accountability he instilled in those who followed him. In the grand tapestry of medieval life, he stands as a quiet hero, a man who wielded the power of the purse with wisdom, restraint, and an unwavering commitment to justice. In the quiet corners of medieval villages, where thatched roofs cast long shadows and the scent of freshly turned earth hung in the air, peasants lived lives shaped by the rhythms of nature and the demands of their lords. The tax collector's arrival was as inevitable as the changing seasons. Yet even in the face of such burdens, the common folk found ways to preserve their dignity. As the sun rose over fields of golden wheat, casting a warm glow across the land, peasants would rise early, their calloused hands already reaching for tools before the first roosters crow. They knew that today, like every day, would be a test of their resilience. The Lord's men would come, demanding their share of the harvest, and the villagers would comply ... mostly. For in the hearts of these simple folk burned a quiet flame of resistance. It was not the roaring inferno of rebellion, but rather a gentle ember, carefully tended and hidden from view. A farmer might forget to count a few sheaves of wheat, tucking them away in a secret corner of the barn. A miller could let a handful of grain slip through his fingers, falling to the floor where it would be swept up later, away from prying eyes. These were not grand gestures of defiance. They were small, almost imperceptible acts that spoke volumes about the human spirit's refusal to be completely cowed. A woman might cradle a hen close to her chest as the tax collector passed, its soft clucking muffled by her apron. A child could be sent to play near the edge of the forest, innocently gathering berries that would never find their way into the Lord's basket. As the day wore on, the village would buzz with quiet activity. Neighbors would exchange knowing glances, a silent language of shared struggle and subtle triumph. The old would sit in the shade, their weathered faces betraying no emotion as they watched the young navigate this delicate dance of compliance and defiance. When the tax collector's cart finally rolled away, laden with its bounty, a collective sigh would ripple through the community. Doors would open, and people would emerge, their postures a little straighter, their eyes a little brighter. In kitchens and courtyards, they would gather, sharing meager meals made richer by the knowledge that they had kept something for themselves. These moments of respite were precious, for they knew that the cycle would begin anew with the next harvest, the next demand. Yet in these stolen morsels of freedom, in the clever hiding of a few eggs or the strategic placement of a less than full jug of milk, the peasants found a way to assert their humanity. As night fell and candles flickered in humble homes, stories would be whispered. Tales of ancestors who had faced similar trials, of clever tricks played on unsuspecting lords, of small victories won in the endless struggle against poverty and oppression. These stories were more than mere entertainment. They were a lifeline, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope could be found in the smallest acts of defiance. The medieval tax system was a heavy yoke, one that bent the backs of countless generations. It demanded not just a share of the harvest, but a piece of the peasants' merry souls. Yet in their quiet resistance, in their refusal to give everything, these simple folk found a way to keep their spirits alive. As the seasons turned and years passed, the pattern remained. The Lord's men would come, and the peasants would pay their dues. But beneath the surface of compliance, a current of resilience flowed. A basket might be filled to the brim, but perhaps the bottom was lined with straw, hiding the true bounty beneath. A field might appear to have yielded less than expected, when in truth, some of its bounty had been carefully secreted away. These acts of quiet resistance were not born of greed or malice. They were a testament to the enduring human need for dignity, for some small measure of control over one's own fate. In a world where so much was dictated by those in power, these tiny rebellions were a way of saying, we are more than just serfs. We are people with hopes and dreams of our own. The tax collectors, for their part, were not always oblivious to these small deceptions. Some chose to turn a blind eye, recognizing the desperate circumstances that drove such actions. Others were less forgiving, their sharp eyes and sharper tongues seeking out every last morsel owed to their masters. But even in the face of such scrutiny, the peasants found ways to persevere. As the years wore on, these acts of quiet resistance became woven into the very fabric of village life. Children learned from their parents the art of appearing compliant while holding something back. It was a delicate balance, one that required cunning, patience, and an unwavering belief in the value of one's own worth. In the fields, where sweat mingled with soil, peasants would work with a determination that belied their circumstances. They knew that every extra handful of grain, every additional vegetable coaxed from the earth, was a potential shield against the demands of their lords. And so they toiled, their bodies aching but their spirits unbroken. When winter came, bringing with it the biting cold and the specter of hunger, these small acts of resistance took on even greater significance. A hidden sack of flour could mean the difference between survival and starvation. A carefully preserved piece of salted meat might sustain a family through the darkest days of the year. And yet, even in these moments of hardship, there was a sense of community that transcended the individual struggles. Neighbors would share what little they had, knowing that their own survival was tied to the survival of those around them. In this solidarity, they found strength, a collective resilience that allowed them to face each new day with determination. As spring returned, bringing with it the promise of new life and new challenges, the cycle would begin anew. The tax collectors would come, and the peasants would once again engage in their subtle dance of compliance and defiance. But with each passing year, with each small victory won, their spirits grew stronger. In the end, it was not grand rebellions or heroic deeds that defined the lives of these medieval peasants. It was the quiet, persistent resistance to a system that sought to strip them of their humanity. In their gentle gestures of defiance, in their refusal to be completely broken, they found a way to keep their dignity intact. And so, as the sun set on another day in the medieval countryside, the peasants would gather in their homes, their faces illuminated by the warm glow of the hearth. They would share stories, laugh quietly, and take comfort in the knowledge that tomorrow they would rise again, ready to face whatever challenges came their way. For in their hearts, they knew that as long as they held onto that spark of resistance, as long as they found ways to assert their own worth, they could never truly be defeated. As medieval kingdoms expanded, so too did their need for revenue. The once simple systems of tribute and feudal obligations began to evolve, weaving new threads into the tapestry of governance. Taxation, once a haphazard affair, grew more structured and sophisticated. Poll taxes emerged, demanding a fixed sum from each adult. Land assessments scrutinized the value of fields and forests. State bureaucracies sprouted, their quills scratching endless ledgers of income and expenditure. In the flickering candlelight of castle keeps, royal advisors pored over scrolls, devising ever more intricate ways to fill the royal coffers. The old ways of collecting dues in kind, bushels of grain and heads of cattle, gradually gave way to coin. Mints clinked and clanged, churning out silver pennies stamped with the visage of kings. These glinting discs became the lifeblood of the realm, flowing from peasant to lord, from merchant to crown. Yet the transition was far from smooth. In village squares and market towns, tax collectors were met with grumbles and sidelong glances. The common folk, their backs already bent by labor, chafed under new burdens. Whispers of discontent rustled through taverns and fields like wind through wheat. Some saw these changes as necessary for a stronger kingdom, others as the grasping hand of tyranny reaching ever deeper into their purses. The church, too, played its part in this fiscal drama. Tithes, a tenth of all produce, flowed into parish coffers and monastic granaries. These ecclesiastical levies existed alongside royal taxes, creating a complex web of obligations that bound peasant and noble alike. In times of crisis, war, famine, or plague, extraordinary taxes might be imposed, straining the social fabric to its limits. As trade routes expanded and cities grew, new forms of wealth emerged, challenging the old order. Merchants and guilds, their coffers swelling with gold from far-flung lands, became targets for royal taxation. Custom houses sprang up at ports and border crossings, extracting their due from every wagon and ship. The economy, once bound to the rhythms of the agricultural year, began to pulse with the heartbeat of commerce. In this shifting landscape, clever minds sought ways to game the system. Tax exemptions became prized possessions, jealously guarded by nobles and clergy. Some enterprising souls found loopholes, slipping through the cracks of poorly written laws. Others resorted to outright evasion, risking severe punishment if caught. The cat-and-mouse game between taxpayer and collector, as old as civilization itself, took on new dimensions. Yet for all its flaws, this evolving system of taxation laid the groundwork for more centralized and powerful states. Roads were paved, bridges built, and armies maintained, all fueled by the steady stream of silver flowing into royal treasuries. The crude mechanisms of early medieval finance gradually gave way to more sophisticated instruments. Letters of credit and bills of exchange began to circulate, allowing wealth to move across borders with unprecedented ease. In the halls of learning, scholars debated the ethics and practicalities of taxation. Some argued for a flat rate, others for a system that placed heavier burdens on the wealthy. The concept of ability to pay began to take root, though its implementation remained far from perfect. These intellectual debates would echo through the centuries, shaping the fiscal policies of nations yet unborn. As the medieval period waned and the early modern era dawned, taxation systems continued to evolve. The rise of nation-states brought with it new challenges and opportunities. Standing armies, once a rarity, became commonplace, their upkeep demanding ever larger sums. Navies, too, consumed vast resources, their wooden walls protecting trade routes and projecting power across the seas. In this new world, information became as valuable as gold. Censuses were conducted, mapping the realm's population and resources with unprecedented detail. Tax rolls grew more accurate, leaving less room for evasion. The state's reach extended further into the lives of its subjects, for better or worse. Some saw this as progress, others as an infringement on ancient liberties. The seeds of revolution, were often sown in the fertile soil of tax disputes. When levies grew too heavy, when exemptions too blatantly favored the powerful, discontent could quickly turn to open rebellion. Peasant revolts and urban uprisings punctuated the medieval and early modern periods, stark reminders of the delicate balance between ruler and ruled. Yet for all its imperfections, the evolution of taxation systems played a crucial role in shaping the modern world. It allowed for the creation of larger, more complex societies, capable of great achievements and terrible follies. The bureaucracies that grew around tax collection became the backbone of state administration, their methods and structures echoing into our own time. As we look back on this period of fiscal transformation, we see not just a dry recitation of laws and levies, but a mirror of society itself. In the ways people were taxed, and the methods used to collect and spend those taxes, we can read the story of power, of social hierarchies, of technological change, and of the ever-present tension between individual and state. The legacy of these medieval and early modern tax systems lives on in our own world. Though our methods have grown more sophisticated, many of the fundamental questions remain the same. How much should each citizen contribute to the common good? How can taxes be collected fairly and efficiently? What is the proper balance between public and private interests? As we grapple with these questions in our own time, we would do well to remember the long and winding road that brought us here. From the simple tribute of conquered peoples to the complex fiscal policies of nation-states, the story of taxation is, in many ways, the story of civilization itself. It is a tale of human ingenuity, of struggle, of progress and setback, forever unfolding in the grand tapestry of history. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the medieval landscape, we find ourselves at the end of our journey through the intricate world of feudal taxation. The cool evening air carries whispers of centuries past, echoing the complex relationships between lords and peasants, kings and subjects. Let us pause for a moment, dear viewer, to reflect on the tapestry of fiscal obligations we've unraveled together. In the soft glow of twilight, we've traversed the winding paths of history, exploring the foundations of medieval tax systems. From the humble hearth tax to the grand scale of the Doomsday Book, we've witnessed the evolution of a society bound by duty and tradition. The weight of these ancient practices still lingers in the air, a testament to the enduring nature of human governance. As night falls, we find ourselves in a quiet village square, where the day's activities have ceased, and only the occasional flicker of candlelight from nearby windows breaks the darkness. Here, in this tranquil setting, we can almost hear the whispers of countless generations who lived and toiled under the complex web of medieval taxation. The gentle rustling of leaves in the evening breeze reminds us of the seasonal rhythm that dictated much of medieval life. We recall the harvest taxes, where a portion of each year's as bounty was carefully measured and set aside for the Lord S table or the King's S coffers. The changing of seasons brought not only new crops, but also new obligations, a cycle as old as civilization itself. In the distance, the silhouette of a grand castle looms against the starry sky, a stark reminder of the power structures that shaped medieval society. Within those stone walls, We imagine the meticulous record-keeping of royal accountants, their quills scratching parchment by candlelight as they tallied the kingdom's wealth. The castle stands as a symbol of the centralized authority that gradually emerged, bringing with it more standardized and far-reaching systems of taxation. As we walk along the moonlit path, our footsteps muffled by the soft earth, we reflect on the ingenuity of medieval tax collectors. Their methods, though often viewed as harsh by modern standards, were born of necessity and adapted to the realities of their time. We've learned of the poll tax, where each adult was counted and charged, and the innovative use of tally sticks, simple wooden records that served as receipts and bonds in an age before widespread literacy. The cool night air carries the scent of damp earth and wood smoke, evoking memories of the hearth tax we discussed earlier. In each humble dwelling we pass, we can almost see the families gathered around their fires. The very symbol of home and warmth, it became a measure of their fiscal responsibility. The hearth, once a sacred space, became a point of calculation in the ever-expanding reach of medieval taxation. Our path takes us past fields now shrouded in darkness, their boundaries marked by ancient hedgerows. These silent witnesses have stood through centuries of change, including the gradual shift from labor services to monetary rents. We pause to consider how these changes in taxation reflected broader societal transformations. As the feudal system slowly gave way to more modern forms of governance and economy. In a nearby meadow, the ruins of an old tithe barn stand as a ghostly reminder of the church's role in medieval taxation. The moonlight casts long shadows across its weathered stones, and we can almost hear the echoes of farmers bringing in their tithes, 1/10 of their produce offered to support the clergy and maintain the parish. This intersection of spiritual and temporal obligations was a defining feature of medieval life, shaping both individual conscience and communal responsibility. As we approach a crossroads, we are reminded of the complex network of trade and commerce that flourished. Despite, or perhaps because of, the intricate tax systems of the Middle Ages, merchants and traders navigated a maze of tolls and customs duties, their journeys contributing to the gradual standardization of weights, measures, and currencies across regions and realms. The night grows deeper, and a gentle mist rises from the nearby river, softening the edges of the landscape. This natural boundary, like so many others, once marked the limits of tax jurisdictions and local authorities. We reflect on how geography and topography influenced the development and enforcement of medieval tax systems, creating a patchwork of obligations that varied from one locale to another. In the distance, the faint sound of bells marks the passing of another hour. Time, in the medieval world, was not just a measure of days and seasons, but also of fiscal cycles. From the annual rendering of accounts to the great councils where taxation was debated and decreed, the rhythms of governance were intimately tied to the turning of the years. As our journey nears its end, we find ourselves in a small chapel, its interior illuminated by the soft glow of candles. Here, in this sacred space, we're reminded of the moral dimensions of medieval taxation. The teachings of the Church often grappled with questions of just governance and fair contribution, influencing both the theory and practice of fiscal policy throughout the era. The flickering candlelight casts dancing shadows on the chapel walls, bringing to mind the chiaroscuro of medieval society, a world of stark contrasts between privilege and obligation, wealth and poverty, power and subjugation. Yet within this complex tapestry, we've discovered threads of continuity and shared experience that connect us to our ancestors across the centuries. As we step back into the cool night air, the stars above seem to shine with renewed brilliance, as if acknowledging the depth of history we've explored. The medieval tax systems, with all their complexities and contradictions, were more than just methods of revenue collection. They were expressions of social order, reflections of cultural values, and engines of historical change. Tonight, we've walked among fields, barns, and candlelit halls. We heard the soft echo of medieval obligation, gentle, measured, and human. May these quiet histories guide you to calm dreams, and perhaps to a deeper appreciation of the intricate bonds that have always connected individuals to their communities and rulers to their realms. As the night embraces us, let us carry forward the lessons of the past, ever mindful of the delicate balance between duty and justice that continues to shape our world. As our journey through the intricate world of medieval tax systems comes to a close, we find ourselves at the threshold of slumber. The flickering candlelight casts dancing shadows on the castle walls, reminiscent of the ever-shifting nature of taxation in those bygone days. Let us take a moment to reflect on the complex tapestry we've woven together, exploring the feudal obligations, tithes, and royal levies that shaped the economic landscape of the Middle Ages. From the humble serf toiling in the fields to the opulent nobles in their grand estates, each played a part in this intricate dance of fiscal responsibility. We've journeyed through the winding streets of medieval towns, where merchants haggled over tolls and duties, their voices echoing through the centuries. We've stood in awe before the towering cathedrals, marveling at the architectural wonders funded by the faithful's tithes. As we prepare to bid farewell to this fascinating era, let us not forget the lessons it imparts. The struggles and innovations of our medieval forebears laid the groundwork for the modern systems we know today. Their triumphs and tribulations, their ingenuity and perseverance, all contribute to the rich tapestry of human history. Now, as the candle burns low and the night grows deep, it's time to let the medieval world fade into the mists of time. Allow your mind to drift, like a leaf carried on a gentle stream, away from the bustling markets and imposing castles. Let the echoes of coin-filled coffers and the rustling of parchment tax rolls grow faint, replaced by the soothing whisper of the wind through ancient forests. Imagine yourself resting upon a bed of soft moss, surrounded by the tranquil beauty of nature. The weight of feudal obligations lifts from your shoulders, dissolving into the starlit sky above. The complexities of tallage and scutage melt away, leaving only peace in their wake. As your eyelids grow heavy, picture the gentle glow of moonlight filtering through the leaves, casting a silvery sheen upon the land. The nocturnal creatures of the forest begin their nightly symphony, a lullaby that transcends time and place. Let their melodious calls carry you further into the realm of dreams. Feel the cool night air caress your skin, bringing with it the earthy scent of damp soil and fragrant wildflowers. With each breath, allow yourself to sink deeper into relaxation, leaving behind the cares and concerns of both past and present. The medieval world, with all its complexities and contradictions, begins to blur at the edges of your consciousness. The grand castles and humble hovels, the bustling marketplaces and serene monasteries, all fade into a tapestry of muted colors and soft edges. As you drift closer to the shores of sleep, envision a gentle mist rolling in, obscuring the landscape of history. Let it envelop you in its comforting embrace, carrying you away from the realm of waking thoughts and into the boundless expanse of dreams. In this twilight state between wakefulness and slumber, allow your mind to wander freely. Perhaps you'll find yourself strolling through sun-dappled medieval gardens, their beauty untouched by the passage of time. Or maybe you'll soar above the patchwork of fields and forests, seeing the world as the falcons of noble hunters once did. As you journey deeper into the realm of sleep, remember that the knowledge you've gained about medieval tax systems will always be a part of you. It has enriched your understanding of history, economics, and human nature. But for now, let it rest gently in the background, a treasure to be explored anew when the sun rises once more. The weight of your eyelids becomes too much to bear, and you surrender to the sweet embrace of slumber. The last wisps of conscious thought drift away like autumn leaves carried on a gentle breeze. The medieval world, with all its fascinations and complexities, recedes into the depths of your subconscious, ready to be revisited in the light of a new day. As you teeter on the brink of sleep, know that you carry with you the wisdom of ages past. The struggles and triumphs of those who came before us have shaped the world we inhabit today. Their stories, their innovations, and their perseverance continue to inspire and inform us even as we dream. In the quiet moments before sleep claims you completely, take comfort in the knowledge that you are part of an unbroken chain of human experience. From the medieval tax collectors to the modern-day economists, each generation builds upon the foundations laid by those who came before. Your exploration of this fascinating topic has added another link to that chain, connecting you to the vast tapestry of human history. As your breathing slows and your body relaxes, let the last remnants of the medieval world dissolve into the ether. The clinking of coins, the scratching of quills on parchment, and the proclamations of royal decrees all fade away, replaced by the soothing silence of the night. In this tranquil state, allow your mind to wander freely through the corridors of time. Perhaps you'll dream of grand feasts in torch-lit halls, where lords and ladies discuss the intricacies of taxation over goblets of wine. Or maybe you'll find yourself in a humble village, witnessing the daily lives of those who bore the weight of feudal obligations. Whatever visions may come, know that they are a gift from your subconscious, weaving together the threads of knowledge and imagination. Embrace them with curiosity and wonder, for in dreams, we often find insights that elude us in our waking hours. As you drift deeper into the realm of sleep, feel the last tendrils of wakefulness slip away. The medieval world, with all its complexities and contradictions, becomes a distant memory, a treasure to be rediscovered when you awake. Now, As the night embraces you fully, let go of all thoughts and worries. Allow yourself to be cradled in the arms of slumber, safe in the knowledge that you have expanded your understanding of the world and its history. May your dreams be filled with the richness of the medieval era, its castles and cathedrals, its markets and monasteries. May you find yourself walking alongside kings and peasants, scholars and artisans, each with their own tale to tell. As you surrender to sleep, remember that the story of human civilization is an ever-unfolding narrative, with each of us playing our part. Your exploration of medieval tax systems is but one chapter in this grand saga, a testament to the enduring human spirit of inquiry and discovery. Now, as the last grains of sand slip through the hourglass of consciousness, allow yourself to let go completely. Sink into the soft embrace of your bed, feeling the weight of the day melt away. Let the rhythm of your breath become one with the gentle pulse of the universe, carrying you into the realm of dreams. Thank you for your company on this journey through time and knowledge. May sleep come softly, wrapping you in its gentle embrace. Good night, and may your dreams be as rich and fascinating as the medieval world we've explored together.